boy Banks, and this track is dedicated to all the ladies out there who like to go to the movies, you know, especially you, girl. Let me take you to the movie, shorty. I'm sure later on you will be my baby. Let's sit down and just be by my side. I got the popcorn, I know what as you like. Let me take you to the movie, shorty. I'm sure.
That's right.
There you go.
Good start. And you pay for quality, don't you, Patron
Yeah, you
members?
certainly do. Where like two guys are in the background, extremely dark, and Jordan's being flashed with an Oppo camera and
Dude, it's paranormal activity.
Yeah, it's
7.
a
What's
ghost
wrong with
story.
that? What's wrong with, I love those movies.
Yeah.
Ah!
And it's more of a ghost story in more ways than one because there is a Sudanese gang problem.
shit. That's how you start with. So this Patreon is basically to get a teaser. If we're gonna be
of
lynched
why
or
you're not going to be a Patreon member after this episode.
No, please, because there's a disagreement here.
It's not
So-
true.
Okay, so all right, so go on with your pitch.
Okay, so pretty much, look,
Mum,
I'm willing to. Look, the Sudanese gang problem is overestimated. That's just a fact, right? But what I'm saying is that there is a full-blown African gang problem.
Hey, that is not what. You're making it more difficult.
we let
You're
him out
listening
of
to
the
the
cage.
Bolt Report that you have to pay for. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's Foxtel. No, but look, yeah, this is my point, right? I've written a script, and Sam Harris, just by sheer coincidence, has released a podcast where he's talking about the realities of race and how it murks public policy when you don't properly address it, which is what my argument is about this whole kerfuffle about the Sudanese gang problem in Melbourne, right? Because before that, I was just like, yeah, Telegraph just being crazy as always. That's what it does. It just race baits. That's how it gets its numbers, whatever. But honestly, it is more damaging that the quote-unquote left-wing media, your projects,
You're bright.
your feeds,
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's not
your
a left-wing,
Herald Suns, all the left-wing ones.
They're not left wing. They're slightly center.
What
Yeah, no,
about
they are
NTU?
centre
Left wing
right.
is
They're centre
Democracy
right.
Now! And only Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
No. It is that guy, that fat guy that should be working at Games Workshop, who is a self-proclaimed Marxist.
Wait,
that guy that owns that
Cenk Uyghur.
No, that was. Oh yeah, sorry. That's exactly it. No, he should be a construction worker.
Yeah.
He was a construction
No.
worker until
What?
No, he looks like one.
And
Might
get back
as
to the
well
site.
Might as well be.
But this is the whole point, and everybody is telling me not to put this out.
Who?
No, not
But
everybody. Just
my
me.
blind hatred. No,
Wait, who?
The editor Matt as well is also saying.
Oh,
this.
really?
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
Are you serious?
So okay, so this is my
Oh,
I have
drama.
my reasons for you not putting up this video
You
are
want-
different
Okay.
to Matt. So this is how I think of things, and you can obviously do whatever the hell you want. But so what I say is what you're arguing throughout this video, and you'll eventually find out what's coming in this video because I don't think anyone's stopping Jordan.
Maybe I don't know if I've got the guts, but keep
Well,
going.
hold on. So this is what I say. So
Wait till I have my bloody, get my soapbox.
so
Yeah, because there's
You'll
three
do it.
people.
You'll
We'll
do
give
it.
you your own segment called My 3 Cents.
Mine is basically so I understand that all the facts of what you're saying are accurate. I don't even disagree with your conclusions. What I'm saying is that it's fine.
Wait,
and
maybe I
dandy-
should say what my conclusions
well.
are.
Okay, you might as well.
Well,
And
this is
plus,
so
these
good that
are,
like,
there are not
it's-
many people
You
that
might
are
as well, yeah.
listening to this one. It's
Yeah, it's the
Patreon
Joe
only.
Rogan podcast is the free one, and this is the Sam Harris one. But with the exact same guest every time.
AI.
So yeah, instead of talking bullshit for half an hour, we're going to talk about AI and how important that is
In
before we
terms
get
of
into
African gangs. Because are they Terminators? I mean, people haven't spoke about this.
Totally missed that point.
Yeah,
They could be. You're saving the world.
Yeah, Kraft are making Terminators. That's right, Kraft. The guys who make mac and cheese.
In a weird turn of event, Kraft
As
has
if it's-
completely changed their policies.
And people think that Miss Love doesn't do his research.
Yeah.
Hey, can you tell everyone that tells you to fuck off? Can you
Why?
flick your middle finger?
Yeah.
Except for like,
God save the Queen, a fascist regime, and there's no future in England's dreaming.
so there you go.
You
A
want
nice
facts?
mixture of Screwdriver and the band Kiss.
Yeah,
You're-
you want facts?
You're complaining about a guy who's reading this book. Can we please
Yeah,
show
yeah.
them the book?
You think I don't have my facts?
He's reading this book.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Look, if you want facts, go watch MSNBC. All right, that's where your facts come. But seriously, if anyone has any
No, but then, like, they-
iota of interest in, like, you know, politics, events, or not being offended, then switch off.
No, don't
You
switch
don't
off.
support
I'm
that.
still here. I'll bring in some
no,
substance.
no, Jordan,
Please
come on.
don't
No, these-
abuse the people that pay your salary, Miss Love. Please.
I think I
This
got
is
more.
exactly the demographic you should not be
I
doing.
think I
that
got
with.
more love than hate, hopefully. And if not, it's cool to
No, there's
polarize.
like
It's
there's
cool to
there's
polarize.
ardent supporters of you who are just like Miss Love forever.
Yes.
So anyway,
guys.
so you were saying, what are your conclusions for the video?
Okay, so my conclusions are that you know what is described as left-wing media, which is just corporate neoliberalism guised with large dollops of white guilt. That
Damn.
that is like, okay, look at the comparison of them talking about with Lisa Wilkinson being like, all men are rapists. We have to stop this. And the way that you do that is to tell men to stop raping. Really, no policy changes there. You're going to continue, despite the fact that the Liberal Party first of all, she's talking about, again, this is what I'm going into with both instances, right? The reason why Waleed Ali thinks that you shouldn't be talking about Sudanese crime is because 11 years ago, a man was murdered who was Sudanese for racially motivated reasons, which is clearly not acceptable. Like, honestly, is there any rational human being that's like, yeah, that's the
That's
solution there?
appropriate punishment for being black.
Fair enough. And we don't even know if he committed a crime, but he might have, so let's kill him.
He could have. Minority Reports.
Yeah,
they
like
knew it.
Minority Report.
those two dumb fucks that just wrote like F the N words, like on a they're the Minority Report, like children that can see into the future. The thing is, those people obviously, but the thing is, that is a random tragedy. That is not a crime statistic.
Yeah, it's
Whereas-
anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
Unless like more and more black people were being killed for being black.
Yeah,
this
that happened a little
remains-
more frequently than every 11 years.
Yeah, that's not a yeah.
You know, but the thing is, that with that statistic, the Sudanese gang crime. First of all, he really understated what it was. He was just going that, like, it's 0.1% of the population, but they're only committing 1% of the crime, which is the exact same argument that global warming climate deniers use when they say that, like, there's only 400 parts carbon dioxide in the air per million. There's not that much carbon dioxide in the air. But the point is that it is like they're committing crimes at 10 times the representation of what they are, right? So what you should do is you should identify that is an issue, which the Victorian police weren't doing for 10 years. They were refusing to acknowledge this, and as a result, it festered. It's getting out of hand now. The other thing is that it's happening in poor suburbs where people don't report crimes to the police anyway. Obviously you don't say that it's an African gang problem because there's 50 nations in Africa. How many is there? Ali? You're the expert on these kind of
Tons is the official.
official number. Yeah, just heaps. And there's more and more because civil wars all the time.
Yeah, well, South Sudan's the latest one.
Yeah.
There you go.
God.
And the thing is, that's obviously a gross, but you're not being specific about what the problem is. But the thing is that once you identify that there is a specific crime trend, you have to be specific about that crime trend to address it. What happens if you don't is what happened in Europe, and this exact same scenario happened in Europe, where it was like France, Germany, Britain.
Read The Strange Death of Europe, by the way, if you're interested.
Because, it did, like, red pill me.
Yeah,
and I realized that migration actually is a problem. It's not the same as what the Telegraph describes it as, where you're just like, we'll just deport them all.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Well,
if you get...
let's not stop it. You know,
Well, there's varying opinions on that, right? Like, we can at least agree that there's area of debate.
I'm just kidding.
No, there is an area because I'm coming up with my own comebacks after you've finished.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But the thing is that crime in certain ethnicities that they knew was happening, the police were purposefully underreporting, refusing to accept that it was reality. Any politician, bureaucrat, journalist that talked about it was given that you're a white male treatment. Yeah. And as a result, there has just been suburb-wide no-go zones, even in capital cities, let alone like shitty cities like Rotherham and like Manchester and stuff.
Dude, Malmo in Sweden. It's like apparently just hell on earth.
Mm.
It's just like shootings. It's just like, I'm going to get some groceries. I've been stabbed 7 times.
Fact.
In Sweden.
In Sweden.
And all of these countries, and it's because it was because everyone was just like, oh no, we can't say what the problem is. We just have to tiptoe around it and say there's crime. Okay, we just got to say there's crime, and that's the problem. Mm-hmm. But the problem that happened now is now that there is like third world ghettos in first world countries, which is exactly the reason why the vast majority of those people that have to live in those shitty suburbs moved from third world countries to first world countries for a better quality of life. But now they're mixed in with that shit because like if you're a bad person from a really poor country and you come to a country where like it's just basically like Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. Like you are so much more boss because you were a child soldier or whatever. Yeah. And now you're just in a place where people are like, I'm scared of getting a vaccine.
Yeah. Ironically, the irony is that it doesn't help the immigrants. If there's a
it targets them the worst because where is the Sudanese crime problem predominantly in shit suburbs like Bradfield in Melbourne, which are Sudanese dominated, filled with migrants. Yeah. Like everyone just being like, it's just white racism, just holding down the black man. Well, how do you explain the Chinese people that are complaining about it, and the Vietnamese, and the Indians, and the Pakistanis, and the other African nations, and the Sudanese themselves that are saying that there is a crime problem there? You don't just brush all of that aside with, I'm not saying that they don't commit crimes. That is the same as saying like, just being like, I'm not denying that the climate changes. It definitely does. But, what are we... These are the exact same arguments that, the Project and the Feed and BuzzFeed are using to diminish the importance of this crime trend is the exact same arguments that the Murdoch press uses to diminish the importance of climate change. Dang. And the thing is...
Yeah, it's just Christmas. He's like, finally, someone's talking about the real issues. Okay, hold up. Okay, hold up. Okay, so
all right, I've had my 3 minutes. Okay. You go.
A few things. So
how long have I had? 12 minutes.
12 minutes. Okay, first of all,
you've got 2 minutes. Go.
Fine. I don't need that long.
You now have 1 minute. No,
okay.
No, so, Ollie, no. Okay,
hold the fuck up.
I'm going to give you the last word.
I'm trying to give you the last word. No, that's not right.
Okay, go. So first thing, okay, as I said from the beginning, I don't necessarily disagree with the facts or the conclusions that you made either. The problem is when you're saying that the purpose... So the question is, what's the purpose of the video, right? Is it just to identify the problem? But you're saying that the purpose of the video is specific policy recommendations, right? That will supposedly make the issue better.
No, because I don't know what the specific policy recommendations
I'm not saying that you
are,
would.
so I don't know. I'm saying that you need to identify problems. Basically, you cannot soften reality.
No, okay,
you have to look at reality for what it is.
I'm not asking you what the recommendations are. What I'm saying is that you, by giving the fact that you identify Sudanese or a certain ethnic group with this problem, you by default cannot come with policy recommendations because you cannot legislate based on a specific group of people. So what this is basically doing is giving the people the truth, in a sense, that it is predominantly Sudanese people that are overly committing these crimes, but with no solution because you can't say Sudanese people can't commit crimes. Luckily for us, whatever gang-related crimes there are already illegal. So what you need is police enforcement. And okay, understandably, you might not think so, but the police that are dealing in these communities know exactly what the problem is. They know, for example, that certain groups of people are committing more crimes. So, for example, living in Sydney, Lebanese guys get stopped over a lot more than any other ethnic community. I don't get stopped over because luckily Indians haven't started doing shit, right? So something that I benefit from. If I was Lebanese, I'd get stopped over heaps.
But the other thing is,
if you keep saying that Lebanese people and crime are together, what you're doing is basically you're not helping with the policy recommendations. And secondly, Lebanese community that could. So okay,
Yeah, no, I get
the
it.
difference is with the
But-
difference with Europe and Australia is. Without getting too much into it, so Europe bases its national identity on almost an ethnic basis, right? Which is why the migration problem in Europe is much worse. Because
wait, say that again.
so Europe bases its national identity. What makes them, let's say, French, is very different to what makes us Australian.
No, I don't agree with that.
So they base it. I'm just giving you my opinion, right?
Okay,
so,
sorry.
So they base it on their years and years of ethnic unity. So to be French is to not be German,
Yeah.
right? If you've got people living from different communities, how do you form that national French identity, which makes them sort of ghettoized, and it also is a problem for migrants because they can't think of themselves as French almost. In Australia, luckily, we don't base it on some sort of ethnic group because we are a combination of different immigrants, right? So over here, we can actually deal with this migration issue a lot better, similar to what the U.S. has done. Because the U.S., even though it's not a good time because Donald Trump, and that's also something that we could talk about, like how their national identity is being changed rather than revert back to normal by Donald Trump. What he is saying is an innovation, not going back to the basics. Australia we can still manage to do that, but we can only do it if we can somehow make an inclusive national identity, which one of the things, I don't know exactly how to do it. It needs to be negotiated. It needs to be evolved amongst the people themselves rather than the politicians. But what I can say is that fact is kind of like saying there's a snake in a crowd. It could be true, and the snake could bite people too. But just bringing that out, I don't know if it's. I'm just saying that it won't come up with the specific policy recommendations that you're thinking of. I am saying that your intentions and your motivations are great, but I don't know if it will be that helpful. Having said that, you did read out your script, and it's and I will vouch for this. This isn't some black people are committing crimes. It's a very nuanced take on it, and it's not specifically, for lack of a better word, it's not racist at all. It's actually like a good factual understanding of what's happening, and you can also do it because if you were a politician, I would recommend against it. But because you're a citizen, and that's where these conversations need to be, in my opinion, need to be had anyways. So I think you should put out that video because you strongly believe in it. What I'm saying is, for greater repercussions, if I was in your position, I would perhaps not have released this video. Even though
Holy shit.
even though I agree
Thank you for
with
giving
it.
me confidence. Okay, well, look, the 2 points that I disagree with on that. The first one is that in The Strange Death of Europe, they talk about this, the fact that with French and the Germans and the British, what they are doing is purposefully trying to erase the things that make them French and British and German, because they're trying to include everybody into it and creating themselves a new national identity. But in the process of doing that, they are saying, using arguments they were using arguments to continue the migration problem. Now it's just become so obvious in Europe that policymakers are doing something about it now, but it's way too far gone at this point. But the thing is, they were saying that they were just being like, oh, well, like Britain doesn't have any culture. France, what is French culture?
Yeah,
like Britain's culture is like being polite.
Good move.
That's what
No,
it is.
but,
So we put that in, and they
that's
just like
false.
cherry pick parts of the culture to include the narrative that's why like
Being
migration
polite.
in its levels is fine, and you don't have to deal with the reality of the crime that comes with like huge influxes of people from like much more violent countries. That like, again, look, I understand why the Sudanese are more violent than the average people from Africa or like people from India or Asia. It's because like Sudan is like, I don't know how to put this diplomatically, but like it's just it's hell on earth.
No, it's a shithole.
It's like
Mordor.
so
It's a
shit.
shithole.
Yeah, and it's like
And
and it's
also
like
they've
it's
been
like
in a-
constant breakups of civil wars where people don't even know who they're fighting anymore or for what reason. It's like it's gone beyond that point at this point, and like there's constant drought. The dictator in there has like put in a systematic regime of genocide. Like it's the worst. It's one of the worst countries on earth, right? But having said all that, like, yeah, the point about nationality and stuff like that, I just don't see that like mixes into it with Australia, because like those arguments were used in Britain, and it wasn't the point. Like, but the other one that you had that I think is, it's like a lot stronger, is that like as soon as you identify that, then they identify as that themselves, and then it makes them harder to assimilate. Having said that, though, look, it is not a controversial opinion to say that men rape and murder at a way higher scale than women rape and murder.
Yeah.
Like, no one sits there and is like, "Oh my God, that's so sexist," and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, that's the facts. As a result of that, and everyone knowing that, policy is implemented to deal with that. Yeah, it's a form of discrimination, but it works. But this is the other thing that I was talking about with the project, and you contrast those two, and then I've got another example of contrasting them with the project. But if you contrast their coverage of the Sudanese gang problem with like that random murder of Eurydice Dixon. First of all, yeah, it was a man, but what they failed to mention was the fact that that guy was severely autistic. So he was insane. And yeah, crazy people randomly rape and murder. There was no trend there, right? Because like someone getting randomly raped and murdered, they had to go back like 4 or 5 years to find another example of that happening. Look, people, and like it is basically like just being like, people don't need to change. Lightning needs to stop striking people. Like, it is a random event. What is true when she, like, and then again, she was just cherry picking the statistics where she just goes that, like 30 women have been murdered this year. But what she didn't mention was that 29 out of 30 of those women that have been murdered. And on top of that, were people that they knew. Were men that they knew, right? But like also on top of that, Walid Ali dismisses, and it's just one of the serious crimes that the Sudanese are involved in, right? But he dismisses, like I think it was aggravated robbery. I'm going to have to go back and look at it, but he just goes like, they're only responsible for 3.8% of aggravated robbery, but again, they're like 0.1% of the population. They're also responsible for like 7.4% of like carjackings and 13% of armed robberies, and he doesn't mention any of that. And he actually didn't even mention that statistic, right? He said that it was 3.8%. It's actually 4.8%, but whatever. But we'll give him that. But what he said is after that is just like, but what everyone doesn't realize is that's just 70 armed robberies a year. And then, but at the same time, they were just like, 30 women have been raped and murdered this year. Now, obviously, that's a way worse crime to rape and murder someone. To murder someone than to carjack. But like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like the logic doesn't fit up in those two things. Like, they're using completely different conclusions at looking at the data and misrepresenting it.
It's like, that's because we're in a fucking Australia. That's obviously the
and they are statistically in proportion. That was the other thing. He just goes to like 72% of crime is committed by Australian-born citizens, and it's because, dickhead, 72% of Australians are Australian-born. So it's in proportion. This is the thing that he says with the project, with the Eurydice Dixon coverage, where she just goes to like, men, 30 men have been raped. What she didn't mention was that 29 of those are a result of people in, people that they know murdering them, right? So it's domestic violence. What they also didn't mention is that the Liberal Party privatised the domestic violence hotline, which I know from talking to counsellors that have just been fired because it's been privatised, and they just replace them with like fucking people that work at Dan Murphy's with you, basically.
I got offered a
like
job.
Trained counsellors. Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, I don't know if I'm qualified.
Do you like VB?
You don't understand.
Well,
it's
you
$1 an hour
women.
more.
You said there's no unifying culture in Australia. Wrong now.
No, okay.
But sorry. So then they say with this, right? So like, it was privatised by the Liberal Party. No coverage of that. No coverage at all of the fact that like the thing that has been proven to save, I can't remember the stats. I'm going to have to look it up because I'm doing another video on that. But the thing that has been proven to save a lot of women's lives, which is the domestic violence hotline, because they can ring up and they can tell by where they are in the domestic violence cycle how serious it is, because there's trained psychologists and they can say, get the fuck out of there, I'm calling some police. And so they save lives that way. But the thing is, now it's been privatised. It's just been filled with a bunch of people from Dan Murphy's that are just like, have you tried calling the cops? Well, I don't know. See ya. And they just
like-
hang up, you
I
know.
don't like the subtle payout of Dan Murphy's. They still pay the bills. Please donate more so they
Money.
can stop
Yeah.
paying
More
bills.
money.
And they also don't mention men are more likely to be killed. Men are more likely to be killed at work. Men are more suffer from depression and
Yeah, but
fucking-
like-
men
but those-
commit suicide.
No,
But those like you can have those discussions and like have them separate to that issue, right?
Yeah.
Like
No,
you,
but that's-
like
okay,
you should cover those things, but also on sorry, I don't
Yeah.
just let me finish.
Sorry.
And then the final point of all of that is why aren't they mentioning the fact that the domestic violence hotline has been privatized? It's because it was bought by
Because
Medibank
it's
Private,
convenient
and
to not say,
Medibank Private funds the fucking project.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the
Yeah.
fucking
Dude, you
reason
can't-
why.
okay,
So
that's
Lisa
huge.
Wilkinson profits off the death of women and sits there and says that the way to solve this fucking
Damn.
crisis is to say that men shouldn't rape.
Yeah.
This is the fucking point of the project. In every fucking scenario, it's just like, here's the problem. Anyway, the solution is to do nothing. Next segment. The solution is to do nothing,
Yeah.
including the fact when they talked about West Papua, which is a genocide of 500,000 people, 500,000 black people. You'd think that if Walid Ali cared so much about a black person dying 11 years ago, that he'd care about 500,000 black people dying currently now. But his response to that was, yeah, it's an issue of sovereignty.
Yeah.
A fucking genocide is just an issue of
Yeah.
sovereignty, is it?
Yeah.
You know
Is
what?
that what you're saying?
I actually kind of changed my mind. You definitely should do this video because no. Here's the thing. Like, if there's anything that Chomsky has taught us both, is irrespective of what the repercussions could be, you need to tell your truth. And I feel that this is your truth, and you need to tell it.
My truth.
Having said that, what I'm saying is like, you know how if they say it's true if they say men commit violence against women more than women commit violence against men, right? That's an uncontroversial statement.
Well, actually, the statistics are, and actually, I've got to say this point because it's like Jordan Peterson always brings it up. It's just like women do commit more violence against men, but it's just accepted because it's nowhere near as severe as when a man does violence against women.
No, but that's exactly my point. What I'm saying is by saying something like men commit more violence against women, even though might be true and accurate and also needs policy recommendations, creates an equal and opposite reaction, which we can now witness in men's rights movements and our discussions right now. The fact that we are talking about like how men are more depressed and all of these men's issues is a reaction to a few decades of
true,
feminism, right? So
true,
what I'm
true,
saying
true.
is like when you say your side of the story, be prepared for like another reaction to it, and that reaction, in my opinion, will not be a positive one from the Sudanese community. And eventually, in the grand scheme of things, you can either decide to kick them all out, or we can somehow make them adjust and adapt within our society. And what would be the so what you're saying, you're thinking from a researcher and from the perspective of what's true, right? I'm like, my head is kind of like a politician's head, where I'm just thinking like,
Your head is like yours is a campaign manager's head.
Yeah.
But sorry, keep going.
yeah, no. So I'm just thinking that, so that's my 2 cents on it. But having said that, you feel passionate about this, and I can vouch for this. There's no bad intentions in this. You genuinely want the facts to be out there. So you know what? You do what you've got to do.
But the main
Do
reason
it.
that I want to do it is because I just found out about the West Papuan genocide because it gets so little coverage. And then I saw that the project's response to it was just like, they reported on it, so like I'll give them props for that. But their response to it afterwards was like, well, what can you do? There's sad things in the world. But the thing is, the last genocide that the Indonesians perpetrated against East Timor was basically ended by Bill Clinton ringing up and being like, okay, that's enough of that. And that was the end of the genocide. And all it took was a bunch of, it basically just took enough of the American public and the Australian public to know, because all credit to John Howard, he actually did do something good for once, which was to, he was never hear me say that on a public thing, just for the patrons. But he was crucial in stopping the East Timorese genocide, and again, it was because of public pressure. And this is the same thing that's happened with the Sudanese gang problem. They ignored it for 10 years because there wasn't enough public pressure about it. Now that there's enough public pressure, the Victorian police has come out and said, like, all right, it is happening. and we're talking to the Sudanese community, and we've set up a Sudanese community task force for it. There is outcomes from people being aware of things. And not just aware of, like, this is the thing, right? Like, if people are filled with bullshit ideas, bullshit outcomes happen. But if everyone's on the same page and everyone's just, like, mature about it and understands that, yeah, okay, obviously not all Sudanese people are committing crimes. Most of them are law-abiding citizens, are just setting up businesses and whatever. But there still is an overrepresentation. I think most people are rational enough not to just be like, well, I think the only solution here is a race war.
Yeah.
Don't have to convince me.
Well, you we hope not.
You don't have to convince me at all. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
No,
Anyway, what's your 3 cents?
What's your
Niso?
3 cents?
Well, there's a simple solution. Like, half the shit you said is true.
All of it is pretty.
Well,
like,
I think.
Hey, I'll vouch for him.
I
on
mean,
this.
the thing about national identity and the examples, I totally disagree with that. But everything you said, like, pretty much really important, like all the stuff about, like, you know, the politician's perspective. You should have solutions. That's totally true. But there's an easy solution. Just chuck on a couple of actual policies and political solutions that can be implemented to help the scenario at the end of the video. You're not a politician. You don't have to do
but
shit.
he doesn't.
You know what I mean?
That's not his job.
No, it's not your job. But you might as well.
supposed to-
No, dude. You should do that because it is the right thing to do. Otherwise, it's not going to unify the people and all. And that's completely true. But, like, you have the advantage of not having to be like, oh, this is a very serious series of series that if essentially that we need to come together, like. Just you know what I mean? You have that luxury.
together.
You have that luxury that, dude, because that shit is just spitting truth. But you are right. It might just demonize people more, not help. But at the end,
everyone's on board
just do
except
this.
for one group. What I'm saying,
Just do this. This is the solution.
But this is what I'm saying. Even the Sudanese community is on board that there is a crime problem in the Sudanese community, and they're even saying, stop masking it in political correctness. This is not helping.
Well, they're more aware of it because their kids in jail, right?
Yeah.
Their
So-
kids are in jail, but also, like, they're in that community. They're victims of the crime.
Dude, they're probably the best people to sort of. You know what? Maybe I.
You are right though. Like,
I mean, I'm just.
No,
thinking
Ali
of-
actually did give me a
It's a
really
good response.
and it is
It's a good response.
it's actually a good response as
Yeah.
opposed to just being like
yeah. No, it actually
No,
is
but
a good
and you know what?
response.
This is the best thing about this sort of discussion. Like,
It is
like
a good
dude,
response.
you can have these debates and it's fine, and like you don't have
Yeah.
to pinpoint people as being racist or not. You just come up with your own arguments. In
Yeah.
fact, that's what this Patreon thing was about. This is not going out to the general public. This is literally an intimate discussion between us. What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
what do you
your
think?
piece?
What do you think? Yeah.
What do you think?
It's a good
And
good
also
to know.
it's like don't judge someone's intentions. Judge what they're saying. Is the only thing that I'm just gonna
that's
say.
good. That's
Damn,
good.
chapter
that's good.
4 in your book. What was it called again? I can't remember now.
What?
We were joking
Everyone
about
is biased.
Get
Deal with
over
it.
it. Yeah.
Get over it. Get over it. That was my book.
I'd read that, man. That's mad. But you do no. But I think he has I think he's right. Like, dude, I honestly think just do the video you're doing, and then at the end be like, just be like, zero. It'd be like, here's some policy implementation. 0.4% of the tax used for Victoria's fucking like counseling, like immigration services and the police should be jacked up. Double it.
Perfect.
There's more money to the police, a bit more tax dollars.
Dude, you
to
know,
the
like
initiative.
New South
You're
Wales
sorted.
is
You're sorted. That's all. That's all you do.
New South Wales is the most police state in the world, right after California.
Yeah,
But the
Victoria, I'm talking
last.
about it's Victoria.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's right. Stupid.
Unbelievable.
me. Yeah.
Are you paying attention at all?
Oh wait,
course we
we
are,
weren't
though.
talking
We
about
are after the
bikie gangs in
Blues.
Queensland.
Sorry.
Okay.
But-
No.
but
So
am
the
I
last,
right?
the
Am I
most important
and this is a
statistic
retarded point as well. Sorry, I've just got to say this, but like, dude, no, you go. Actually,
No.
I'll
I
say
was
it.
gonna like try to wrap it up. My last statistic is
Yeah.
$10 is probably 0.1% of your weekly income.
Mm.
So please donate.
So wait, to what? Oh, it's
Us.
yeah, come on. We're just mad.
Yeah,
Basically.
we're mad. We're crazy. But anyways, is there? Well, you'll have the last word, and then let's end this
But
one.
do respond, because now I am genuinely curious. To
What?
see, I want them to respond.
Yeah, no, they will,
I'm
and
very
you'll
curious.
never
but
read
look,
it. But
look,
I'll
this is what I'm
summarize the
saying.
points
This
and read
This
them
is what
out.
I'm saying, though. Like, obviously, there's going to be people there that are just like,
Yeah,
have
but-
no idea. But
Yeah,
why
but-
isn't it just recorded as white crime when it happens, when a white person does it, but it's reported as like African or Sudanese? First of all,
Because they're
it's,
white.
it's moronic to say
They are-
African. It's clearly
They
like that's
are
not
recorded
specific
as
at all.
white. They are recorded as white. They're like white Caucasian. They are.
Yeah, they are in the subtext, but it's not the headline, right? That's what
Well,
they're saying.
yeah, I
But the thing
guess.
is that,
Because it's
dude,
more, it's
you
less
know,
of an
because
anomaly.
the thing is,
if you're a
the-
minority, sorry, but it's,
but
Yeah, that's...
and on top of that, they always say that like, why aren't bikies described as white crime? And the answer is because they're bikies. It is a culture. That's the culture that's happening there. Do you hear bikies all the time being like, we're all tarred with the same brush?
In
I just like Harley
Sudan,
Davidsons.
in
And it's true,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still, there is a bikie crisis. But it is the small culture of it, right?
Yeah,
That's why they call them, if you're using it properly, you would say Sudanese gangs.
Yeah.
And then people go like, it's not even a gang because they just come together for like one day or whatever. Whatever. That's too semantic at that point.
Draw these
these are the
lines?
stupid points.
These
These are like
lines.
the semantics that don't matter. Like what constitutes a gang, 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's like
That's not the
that's-
important bit.
Again, like obfuscating in details that don't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
But like what I'm saying essentially is that an ethnic abnormality in crime that has been trending for a long time is not a semantic. That's what I'm saying. That is
Yeah, no.
a significant piece of information.
That is a
Yep,
significant
yep.
piece of information. But
But
with
I-
great power
yeah.
comes great responsibility.
I think it's a good point that you made though. Yeah, maybe just chuck on some like real on the ground political solutions. But
No, but what I'm saying at the end of it is that
'Cause that's a
the
good way
main
to-
point. The main point at the end is actually just use that as a Trojan horse,
yeah,
because obviously everyone's going to click on that and be like, "Oh my God, so racist. It's not racist at all. It's not racist at all."
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have that discussion, but at the end of it, it's going to get way more attention to link that idea and then
Yeah.
Trojan horse in the idea of like
the
West
Papua
Papua. There is a genocide that is happening right now,
Dude, you
and
gotta
the
do it.
mainstream media sits there and virtue signals about how much they care about fucking ethnic minorities, but when it comes to that, they're just like, oh, you know, what can you do? And we know what you can do.
Yeah,
It is
yeah, yeah.
simple to stop genocides in third world countries, because I don't know if you know this about warfare, but fucking jet fighters usually beat dudes on camels.
Just don't call the video like in the thing being like African gangs are fucked. Don't do that.
No,
Why?
do
I'm
that.
doing that.
Dude,
I'm doing
you
that.
have to
Really?
Of
do
course
that.
you do that.
Because like
Okay.
that's the difference between 100,000 views and 100
okay.
million
Well,
views.
I'm on a social media, you know, there's the buttons
the
and
young-
the Facebook and the MySpace, and then you walk down.
Yeah,
and
what,
then
what would you have called it? Just like a very interesting question to ponder in a very nuanced, I repeat, nuanced manner.
In fact, I learned that through Holsworthy Live. I remember when we did one on Turkey.
Yeah.
I think I wrote
big-
Middle East and Caspian's a political situation. That was the title of the video. And Jordan calls me. He's like, "Dude, you don't know
Change
how to name it."
Yeah,
and I
yeah, yeah,
eventually
yeah.
named it "How Turkey is Kicking Armenian Butt" or something. and then
It's
Jordan's like,
true.
"Yep, that's how you do
Yeah.
it."
Can we get 40% sexier on the title?
All right. Anyways, all right. We've got to go. We've got to go.
See you
See ya.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
More
donating.
money.